The dense canopy of the Oregon wilderness swallowed the last rays of sunlight, casting elongated shadows over the makeshift research station nestled among ancient pines. Dr. Amelia Hartley, a seasoned ecologist with a penchant for the unknown, tightened her grip on the worn leather journal that never left her side. Her auburn hair, usually tied back in a neat ponytail, was a tangled mess after days of trekking through underbrush. Beside her, Mark Whitman, a fresh-faced graduate student brimming with enthusiasm, adjusted his glasses while squinting into the gathering gloom. His backpack overflowed with field guides and notebooks, the tools of his budding trade. The air was thick with the scent of pine needles and damp earth, a soothing balm to Amelia's restless spirit. They had come to this secluded patch of forest to study a rare species of moss rumored to hold medicinal properties, oblivious to the secrets that lay hidden beyond the veil of trees. The third member of their team, Simon Alvarez, was a rugged field technician whose stern exterior concealed a deep reverence for nature. His olive skin bore the marks of countless expeditions, scars, sunburns, and the weathered lines of experience. As evening approached, he meticulously assembled their campfire, his movements deliberate and practiced. "Another day, another discovery," he murmured, his voice a low rumble. They were an unlikely trio brought together by a shared passion for conservation, each with their own reasons for venturing into the unknown. As the days unfolded, Amelia felt an unsettling presence lurking just beyond their camp's perimeter. Her nights were plagued with dreams of shadowy figures and indistinct murmurs, leaving her restless and irritable. She confided in Simon, who listened intently, his dark eyes reflecting the flickering firelight. "The forest listens," he said cryptically. "It responds to those who respect it, and those who don't." Mark, ever the skeptic, dismissed their concerns as fatigue. "It's probably just deer, or maybe a bear," he suggested, though his eyes betrayed a flicker of doubt. He buried himself in data collection, perhaps to avoid confronting his own unease. One evening, as the mist rolled in like a ghostly tide, Amelia caught sight of a figure standing among the trees, a mere silhouette that vanished when she blinked. Her heart pounded in her chest as she edged closer, only to find nothing but swaying branches. "Is someone out there?" she called softly, the echo of her voice swallowed by the fog. Returning to camp, she found Simon sharpening his knife, his posture rigid. "We are not alone," he said without looking up. The weight of his words hung heavily in the air. The team's dynamics wavered between palpable tension and forced camaraderie, each member wrestling with their own apprehensions while striving to maintain a facade of normalcy. On the seventh day, while traversing a previously uncharted ravine, they stumbled upon something that halted them in their tracks, a cluster of rustic cabins camouflaged by overgrown foliage. Smoke curled lazily from stone chimneys, and the faint aroma of wood fires mingled with the scent of damp earth. "I thought this area was uninhabited," Mark whispered, his voice barely audible. Amelia's heart quickened as she noted the absence of any modern amenities. The settlement appeared frozen in time. Wooden totems carved with unfamiliar symbols dotted the clearing, and cured animal hides stretched on frames suggested a self-sufficient community. Before they could retreat, a group of stern-faced individuals emerged silently from the tree line, their eyes hardened by years of isolation. Clad in tattered garments that blended seamlessly with the forest, they encircled the trio with an air of quiet menace. The woman who stepped forward had features sharp yet ethereal, gray hair cascading over her shoulders like a river of silver. Her eyes held a wisdom that belied any age. From behind them, a child peered out, his face smeared with ash, eyes wide with curiosity and caution. "State your business," the woman demanded, her gaze piercing through them like a blade. The ecologists exchanged nervous glances, words catching in their throats. "We're researchers," Amelia finally managed to say, raising her hands defensively. "We didn't mean to intrude." Her explanation was met with cold silence. Without warning, rough hands seized them, binding their wrists with coarse rope that chafed against their skin. Panic surged as they were herded into one of the cabins, its interior dimly lit by flickering candles. The walls were adorned with cryptic symbols carved into the wood, swirling patterns that seemed to move in the corner of the eye, and the air was thick with the scent of herbs and something more pungent, decay. Simon struggled against his restraints, his military instincts kicking in, but a sharp blow to the back of his head sent him sprawling. As they were forced to their knees, the woman from earlier stepped into the candlelight, her shadow dancing ominously on the walls. "Outsiders bring nothing but destruction," she intoned. "We cannot allow you to disrupt the balance." Mark's breathing grew rapid, his eyes darting frantically. "Please," he whimpered. "We're scientists. We study plants, that's all." His plea was met with a chilling silence, broken only by the distant howl of an unseen animal. "You don't belong here," a voice hissed from the shadows. Fear wrapped itself around them, tightening its grip with each passing second. Hours blurred into days as they remained captive, guarded by silent watchers whose expressions betrayed nothing. Deprived of daylight, the trio grappled with despair. The cabin became a crucible of their deepest fears. Mark's initial bravado crumbled, replaced by a hollow stare as he muttered incoherent apologies, guilt gnawing at the edges of his sanity. Amelia fought to keep her composure, replaying every decision that led them here, her mind racing to devise an escape. She noticed that their captors were not driven by malice but by palpable fear, of them, of the outside world, of something unseen. Seizing a moment of vulnerability, she pleaded with the woman who seemed to be their leader. "We can help each other," Amelia implored, her voice cracking. "We're not here to harm you or disrupt your lives." The woman's eyes softened momentarily, the lines on her face deepening with sorrow before hardening once more. "Outsiders bring ruin," she replied. "We protect what is ours." Simon, ever observant, whispered to Amelia under the cover of darkness. "They fear something greater than us," he suggested, "something that binds them to this place." Amelia nodded, her thoughts aligning with his. There was a mystery here, something ancient and formidable that kept these people hidden away. The realization sparked a glimmer of hope, a possibility that understanding might lead to their freedom. Just when hope seemed lost, a sudden commotion erupted outside. A cacophony of raised voices and the distant howl of wolves mingled with an eerie chanting. The guards rushed out, leaving the door ajar. Seizing the opportunity, Simon urged them to flee. Navigating the labyrinthine passages, they emerged into the moonlit forest, only to find themselves surrounded once again. But this time, the isolationists were not the threat. Emerging from the shadows were spectral figures, ethereal and luminescent, their faces twisted in sorrow and longing. The reclusive community fell to their knees, whispering prayers in a language the ecologists couldn't understand. Amelia watched in awe and terror as the apparitions drifted towards her, their touch both chilling and soothing, eliciting a visceral response deep within her. A torrent of emotions surged within her, fear, empathy, understanding. Images flooded her mind, a montage of the forest's history, of men tearing down trees, of fires consuming all in their path, of the cries of the dying. The spirits seemed to convey a warning, a plea. The forest was alive, and it demanded respect. Mark collapsed to the ground, tears streaming down his face. "I can feel their pain," he sobbed. Simon stood protectively in front of them, though his hands trembled. The isolationists began to chant louder, their voices merging with the whispers of the wind. The spectral figures circled the trio, and for a moment time seemed to stand still. In a startling revelation, the isolationists explained that they were the guardians of these restless spirits, the souls of those who perished when the land was ravaged by greed centuries ago. Their seclusion was a pact to keep the forest's secrets safe from the outside world. Recognizing the sincerity in the ecologists' intentions, the community released them on the condition that they leave and never return. Amelia agreed, her voice firm, yet laced with a solemn promise. As they made their way back, she couldn't shake the feeling that their encounter was more than a harrowing ordeal. It was a call to action, a profound understanding of the interconnectedness of all life. Back in civilization, she dedicated her work to preserving not just the physical environment, but the ethereal balance between humans and nature. She wrote articles and gave lectures, but never spoke of the spirits or the secluded community, honoring her vow. The experience remained a haunting memory, a reminder that some secrets are kept not out of fear, but out of reverence for the unseen forces that bind us all. Years later, Amelia would often find herself drawn to the edge of the wilderness, standing beneath the ancient pines as the wind whispered secrets only she could hear. She wondered if the spirits remembered her, if the isolationists still guarded their sacred trust. The forest remained a sanctuary, not just for wildlife, but for the echoes of the past, the guardians of memory and the silent watchers who ensured that some mysteries remained untouched.